Our world continues to change and push us in ways we have not been challenged before. On this show, we talk about these challenges, how to be aware of them, face them, and overcome them in your life. This is David Waldas, creator of the Aligned Living System.
And I'm Nick Musica, Aligned Living Coach. Welcome to the Aligned Living System podcast.
Welcome to another episode of the Aligned Living System podcast. I'm here again with Nick Musica, and our topic today is about moving forward in our life and getting sidetracked by all the lateral movement. And it's kind of a theme right now, and it's funny. I'm actually one of the groups that I'm running right now. I do the 10-week group programs with the Aligned Living work, and it was funny. The first class when we sat down, sometimes themes will appear. And as soon as I started to talk to the group, I said, oh, there's a theme that's appearing here. And that theme is forward movement. That theme is, why do we get so distracted and think that the sideways movement, all the things that aren't taking us where we want to go are really where we want to put our energy. But we find that much more intriguing. Like it captures our attention over the idea of moving forward into whatever's next for us, into whatever it is that we're creating, into really what our dreams are, what's going to bring that fulfillment. And so, yeah, I thought it'd be really fun to dive in with that today because it is rather thematic for people right now. Yeah. So welcome, Nick. How are you?
Good, David. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Yeah. Yeah. So the theme that, or the description that really popped in was the idea of what we're moving into often feels overwhelming for people, or they've set intentions and goals that don't actually feel good to them. And I want to make a distinction here too, because, we can set goals that feel overwhelming, that feel big to us, that feel daunting, and that's different. I think that often what people feel like they're stepping into is stuff that maybe they don't want to deal with. And I would say we'll dissect that a little bit, because when we set big, daunting goals, the first thing that shows up for us is what we need to deal with in us, that's between us and achieving that goal, right? Like it's, if it was as easy as setting a goal and going and doing it, everybody would do it. But what happens is we set a goal and then our shit surfaces that's between us and creating that. And so when we look at the goals we're making, that's an inevitable part of it, right? Is that we're going to have to deal with ourselves. But are we looking at what we're creating in a way that we're really attached to creating it, or did we just pick some big lofty thing? And so the example I use is, I was talking to somebody, they were in healthcare, and they were talking about how they really wanted to change the way the world views healthcare. And 90% of the world isn't going to move on that, right? Like that's a task that feels kind of like, because when we go to move that, like 90% of the world isn't going to want to. And so what if we fine tune it to, what if we fine tune it to, my goal is to shift the people that are open to shifting perspective around healthcare. And that is going to ultimately change the way the world looks at it. Because now what we're interfacing with is actually those that are ready to work with us and aren't in complete resistance to what we're trying to do. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I mean, I personally like a big lofty goal.
Yeah.
So changing the world's perspective on healthcare is sort of wonderful. However, if that's really what you're working for and you think you're going to get it, that's a problem. Right? It just is, right? But to have this big achievable, a big goal that is not achievable, something that's not going to be resolved in your lifetime, right? And working towards that, there's a lot of purpose in that, with the right mindset. But with the wrong mindset, there's a lot of frustration and feeling like you're not accomplishing it, and maybe ragdolling your strategy because it's not really moving forward, in which case now we're doing lateral movements. We're doing one step to the left and then up to the, you're sort of moving like the knight on the chessboard, right? It's just but back and forth a bit. So I do like the lofty goal, but it has to be in context of what is actually achievable. But that lofty goal keeps you motivated.
Yeah, yeah. And it could be an ultimate goal too, right? And I think we could differentiate between that. Like my ultimate goal is to really impact the way the world sees healthcare. But
Yeah.
what if my working goal is to enlist the people that are ready for that change, right?
Yeah.
And
And
that's a
my
huge
part
goal.
of it, yeah, my
Yeah.
part of it is,
Yeah,
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 yeah. And
right.
then it can feel like, oh, now I have some action items. Now it's not so far out there. There's not so much resistance. Like I'm not making it hard for the universe to help me bring this goal into being
Yeah.
because there's something in front of me. And once we get traction, once we get a sense of forward movement, we feel very different. But when
Yeah.
it feels like we're just up against a brick wall, we look for busy work. All of a sudden, you know what? Like, gosh, you know what? I haven't ironed my shirts for next week. I should probably go do that. If that's something you do, or all of a
Yeah.
sudden, you know what, I got to clean my kitchen. It's been a while since I cleaned the bathroom, or whatever it is. I should go clean out my car. The garage has been a mess. Like all these things are like, once I get that in order, my life will feel a lot more in order. Then I'll move forward. And we tell ourselves these
Yeah.
stories, or we get distracted in all these lateral sideways movements because what's in front of us we've set it up in a way that we don't want to step into it.
Yeah. Scary.
Sure, sure.
Scary.
Yeah. And I think our goals should be scary and daunting to a certain degree. But if they're, like you said, if they're unachievable or if they are, the next steps into it are too big of a step that
Yeah.
we're not willing to take it, we take all these other little steps that just take us places that don't matter.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it like you can have a goal of eliminating homelessness from the planet,
Hmm.
right? Like it's not going to get resolved
Yeah.
in your
Yeah.
lifetime, most likely.
Sure.
However, your piece in it could be, I'm just thinking of Joe's Village here in San Diego.
Hmm.
Like they take care of San Diego from that perspective. And there's still
Right.
plenty of homeless people around here.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a big population. However, they're doing everything they can in that context of that building, in that
Hmm.
organization,
Yeah. Yeah.
as an example.
Yeah, and it makes me think about too, like with my work, as I set out on this path, initially, excuse me, initially I spent a lot of time like just doing readings and sessions for people that had no interest in changing. They just wanted to feel okay where they were. And, like I wasn't differentiating that. And sometimes it would feel super heavy and like what a weird, silly way for me to use my gifts to help people feel okay in their stuckness, and I didn't quite get that was what was happening because they'd
Mm-hmm.
walk out feeling great and I'd be like, oh, that was really helpful. But as I thought about what are my goals, like what do I want to do with these gifts that I have, and as I got the download for Aligned Living about helping people to find their alignment and live from that place, it really shifted. And I realized, and this is kind of a weird thing, right? Because a lot of times when we have these type of gifts, we think, who are the most needy? That's who I want to help. But we also have to ask ourselves a question of, are we helping people that want our help, that actually want what we're offering? And if I was offering making people feel good today, like, sure, there's a ton of people that wanted that. But if I'm offering helping people stabilize inside themselves to get more and more clear about who they are and operate from that place and align their life with that, there's a very small portion of the population that actually wants that.
Mm.
And so I had to dial that in and go, wow, this is kind of weird to me. The people that I need to help are not the people that are in the most dire need. They're the people that are here that are wanting to change and move themselves to the next level to develop these capacities inside of themselves. And maybe there's circumstances in their life where the need for that has become very clear to them because stuff's been falling apart, their patterns keep
Yeah.
repeating,
Yeah.
they're just sick of showing up the way they are. But there's a certain level of inspiration, there's a certain level of I'm ready to take this on. And those are the people that I'm here to help. It's a very specific thing. And when I would think about helping all these people that didn't really want to change, like that felt like a treadmill. It felt like walking through mud. And at times, and I mean, I think the reason it felt that way is because it was, it wasn't, there was no forward movement in that. And so the idea that when we dial it in, like I'm so excited about my work now because I know who I'm working with. I work with a lot of high performers now that really want to just take themselves to another
Mm.
level. I work with a lot of empathic people that are tired of being overwhelmed by their gifts and their surroundings and want to clean that up in the way they hold their energy and get clear about who they are and bring their gifts. I
Mm-hmm.
work with a lot of people that have been on like that spiritual junkie circuit that have been, jumping from one thing to the next and going to, this program and then this program and this program, and they just keep needing that hit to stay above water, and they're ready to stabilize inside themselves. And so when I look at that, like I thought it when I was first dialing in that, I thought it was a marketing thing because now I know who to reach and who's going to respond. But it's not a marketing thing at all. It's, what really lights me up and where is the place that I want to bring my gifts that makes sense, that all aligns so that I have this forward movement feeling to me. Because when I didn't have that dialed in, it was a lot
Yeah.
of wandering, right? And by having that dialed in, like these are my people, and this is where I can make an impact, and I see massive impact, like that's all super inspiring, and it happens in a very specific container rather than this big, like, and what are the results of that? Well, I think I am helping to change consciousness. I think I am changing the way people experience reality. I think I am changing the way that people experience themselves. And I'm doing it in a very specific place with the specific people that are ready to do it, not trying to enlist people that are not.
Yeah. Yeah. Perfect. You're piecing it all.
Right, right. Absolutely. And
Yeah.
when I thought it was more than that, or I thought it was whoever showed up, it wasn't that much fun. It felt kind
Mm.
of silly almost like, why am I talking to you about this, you know, pattern in your life again that you're about to go repeat? It's funny. I was talking with a client not too long ago, and they were talking about somebody that they were trying to help, a very generous person. And I got this vision of them, going, oh, you know what, you need a fresh start. I'm gonna drive you to this town that's 50 miles away. There's great opportunities for you there. We'll talk on the way. I'm going to get you set up, give you like a nest egg to kind of get started. And then, this was a vision I saw of her. And so I saw her driving this person out, spending this, couple hours of her time pulling over and dropping her off and wishing her well. And then, as the client turned around in the town to leave, she was, the vision was her watching the person get on a bus that took her back to the town she just drove her from, right? And it was like this very clear image of like when we try to help people who have the rubber band connected to a specific place and they say they want to go somewhere else, but they don't want to go somewhere else. We take that face value. And it's kind of funny, like, are we putting energy and not helping the people that want to move, not letting ourselves up and not realizing what is my role here, but putting our energy into places, people, situations that are just going to get on that bus before we've even turned our car around to drive back home. And they're probably going to get there an hour after we are, back to the same place we just spent all this time and energy and resources to move them from, because that's what we thought they needed, and
Mm.
that's what they said they needed. But the truth is, that's not what they wanted, and that's not
Mm-hmm.
what they were ready for.
Right. Right. Yeah. So then what's the lesson in all of that? I mean, what can we use this individual as and the lesson for this person was,
That yeah, like it was really clear of like, yes, it feels good to do things that feel like you're helping people,
yeah.
but be discerning, because when we're looking at our own time, our own energy, it's a finite resource.
Hmm.
And we have these gifts that we're here to bring, and when we're utilizing them in ways that ultimately don't make a difference other than making
Yeah.
us feel good while we're doing it, and then discouraged afterwards because we watch the person go right back into that relationship, or go right back into that living situation, or go right back into that job, or go right back into that way of thinking. They had never had any interest in changing it. They had an interest in being supported in a way that they weren't really, there was no sustainability because they wanted somebody else to take responsibility for them,
Yeah.
and they weren't ready for the change.
Yeah. Almost dampening their feelings around the situation versus actually changing their feelings of the situation or changing the situation.
Yeah, absolutely. And so even going back to that original example then, right, of the person that said, I want to change the way the world views healthcare.
Yeah.
It's like, I've often used the idea of bailing the ocean with a 5-gallon bucket when we talk about trying to stabilize our own energy when we haven't restructured our energy so the world isn't streaming in on us all the time. Like
Yeah.
when our goals are bailing the ocean with a 5-gallon bucket, like, there's a part of us that knows how ineffective that is. And there's a part of us that just doesn't want to get up and go do it because there is no traction,
Yeah.
but when we dial it in and go, you know what, like I'm working with these specific people
Yeah.
and I'm getting traction here. These are my people. This is where I get to utilize my gift. And these people are ready for it. But if
Yeah.
I try to give it to people that are
Totally.
not ready for
Totally.
it, then what am I doing?
Yeah. Yeah. I was having a conversation with a gentleman yesterday um, about SEO work for
Mhm.
my agency work.
Yeah.
And he's working for a guy who owns a few websites. And the conversation evolved into like you sort of have to sell the value of SEO to him. And I'm like,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
isn't that what you're doing? You
Mhm.
that's your and if he's not interested in that, then we shouldn't be on the phone call, right?
Right. Right.
Like you don't show up to the car dealership and go sell me this car that I don't want. And I'm like now I'm not
Yeah.
in that.
Convince me. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Like I'm not in the convincing business. If
Yeah.
I wanted
Yeah.
to, if I wanted to be in the convincing business, I would have gone to school to be a lawyer. I don't. It's not what I do. Either you want what I have and we move forward,
Yeah.
or or it's not a match.
Yeah, and I think there's a difference too between somebody that has reservations about it that maybe needs some reassurance and some clarity and some vision in order to move forward versus
Yeah,
somebody who's like, I'm going to step back, cross my arms, dig my heels in,
yeah.
and
Prove
and
it to
and
me,
and
David.
make you go, yeah, yeah, see
Yeah,
if you can make me change. See if you
yeah.
like not interested, right? Like who
No,
wants to get up and start that as their goal? Right?
no,
It
no.
just feels awful. And
Yeah,
so like that's such a great vision, right? Like it's a perfect example because when we look at bringing something to the world that it has its heels dug in on, its arms crossed, like, why would I dilute my ability to impact people and to have, whatever it is that I'm here to create transformation with? Why would I put that in places where it just gets eaten up and wasted?
right.
And
It's a waste of
and
everyone's time.
right, right. But
Everyone's
I
time.
think there is this part of us though, this that kind of that wants the best for everybody, and so it's a very weird place to go, yes, I understand you are the most needy person here, you're in the worst shape, yet I'm going to help this other person over here that's doing pretty good. It's very counterintuitive and it doesn't feel good when we look at it from that perspective, but also this person now that is feeling pretty good, that's ready to go to this next level, when I help them, that's going to just you know have this web of influence that's going to go out from them.
Yeah,
And but if I go and help the person who is just sitting there stuck and doesn't know what to do, and anything I do for them isn't really going to be effective, that make
yeah,
them feel better today and then they're going to get back in their shit, like that's wasted energy and time. It's like allowing ourselves to get hijacked. It's lateral movement. It's
yeah,
uh it's all the things that feel good in the moment but create nothing.
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
I think when we get clear on that, all of a sudden we can start opening up our future
Totally.
because we're going to put it into something that's effective, and putting our energy into something that doesn't change anything feels awful.
Yeah. I mean, it's a little bit like salespeople. I don't know if I've used this thinking in the past on any of the podcasts, but it's like there's two types of salespeople, I think. One is the guy who's going to try to sell you anything at any cost, right?
Yeah,
Doesn't
close it.
matter.
Yeah, just going to close it.
Just check the box, get the
Mhm.
numbers up. I want to see my name on the board. I want to see those ticks on the board.
Yeah.
And then there's a guy who is selling something they believe in, and they're looking to understand, are you the right person that I need to sell this to? And is
Yeah.
this the right time for you to buy it?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
got to be an interest there, or else there's no conversation. You're chasing something that shouldn't be chased, and it just doesn't turn out well. People get disappointed. People, you get today's day and age, you get bad reviews on Yelp, Zillow, or wherever
Yeah.
it's going
Yeah.
to be. Versus there's a match, and we're going to do the best with what we have to work with.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting. This was just popping in as you were saying that. Is I was listening to Think and Grow Rich yesterday. It's like, I mean, I think it's one of the most influential books that's hit so many people. And
Mm,
every once in a while, I'll listen to sections of it. And one of the sections was about accumulating wealth. And what he was saying was that it's so important for our choice, for the choices that we make and how we make them, to have money in the bank, because when we don't have money in the bank, we end up kind of in a desperate place, putting our energy into whatever will give us something back financially.
Yes.
And
Very short term thinking.
absolutely, right? Surviving the day.
Yeah.
And when we have money in the bank, we become more selective. We become more attuned to what actually is that resonance and that
Yeah.
match.
Yeah.
And so, part of that is like, great, get some money in the bank, whether it's literal money or whether it's emotional capital, that you're actually feeling that sense of that alignment. But also, like, we got to be able to bring ourselves into a place where we're being really clear about what is my goal. Is my
Hmm.
goal to just, offer my gift, or is my goal to offer my gift in an effective way that's going to change the world? Because offering our gifts in a way that, that doesn't do anything, it's such a burnout thing.
Yep. Yeah. Because then you're really not working with your gifts at that point. You're working with some emotional need that has not yet been met.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like being a counselor with people that, that are like sentenced to come see you or whatever. And they're just like,
An
you know,
obligation.
yeah, like, let's just watch the clock, time it out. Like, I couldn't imagine being in a setting, right, where you're working with people that don't want what you're offering.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
what could be more unfulfilling? And so, whatever it is that you do in life, I think looking at ourselves of like, why is it that we're not moving forward? Why is it that these lateral things, these distractions with, other people in our lives, or putting our energy into stuff that isn't helping us move forward? Sometimes it's preparation, sometimes we need to clear stuff, but more often than not, it's about what is it we're stepping into. And both those things are really important. And I think there's a lot of people going through a lot of clearing, and stuff's coming up for people that they need to work through, and that's absolutely part of it. And I think that even in those moments when people are like, when it's a time period of clearing and purging and rebalancing yourself, I think people often still go, I need to set a goal and move forward into it. And so knowing your season, knowing, where you're at, letting stuff clear, but also knowing what you're stepping into. And I think that it requires a lot of honesty, and maybe even outside feedback from people that we trust, to help us understand, are we just spinning our wheels? Is there something important that we need to clear here? Is our goal something that we've set that isn't really effective, that doesn't feel good to
Yeah.
step in to? All of those things. And when we rework that formula, all of a sudden we get to move forward because we're excited about it. And we've given ourselves permission to put the energy in a place that is effective and matters.
Totally. Totally. There's a phrase in the business world of working on the business versus working in the business. And
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember back when I had a job, when I had a job working for someone else. Um, and I would have this feeling of like I can't break out of this day-to-day tactical thing to
Mhm.
think at a more higher
Yeah.
level,
Yeah. I
a
couldn't
more
see the big
strategic
picture because
level.
everything was
I
survival,
just
right? Yeah.
couldn't do it. Like it was
Mhm.
the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. Like I
Yep.
need to give myself a break. I
Yeah.
need to
Yeah.
be able to step back from it and wonder a little bit and research a
Mhm.
little bit and read a little bit and then take those things that matter to me and start to create from there. And then we can get back into tactical. But
Yeah. Yeah.
it
Yeah.
was impossible working whatever it was 40 hours a week doing the things and then going, oh, now I'm going to be strategic. And
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
it seems like there's a piece to that here where it's
Absolutely.
if you're just going to day your life,
Mhm.
you're just sort of working in your life, you're not working on your life.
Yep. Yep.
But if you start to set the goal of what you want and you can check in with that, then
Mhm.
you can sort of swim the 10 yards, come up for a breath, make sure you're going the right direction.
Yeah. Check
And
your
then
trajectory.
yeah, and then
Yeah.
adjust as you need to and check in with that goal. Am I still doing this thing that I want to be
Yeah.
doing?
It's still in alignment with me. Yeah.
Yeah, and is it working? Right? Just because it was in alignment with you yesterday and you made a
Mhm.
choice yesterday doesn't mean it's going to work out. It means you're on the right path.
Yeah. And that's what we talk a lot about, that, right? Like, we get our next right action and move forward with that, and then keep checking in for our next right action, because that illusion of trajectory of just like, well, I got this, I'm just going to keep going at it. Um,
Yeah.
it doesn't, a lot of times a trajectory is set for us to grow in some way, to learn something, and then we need to adjust our trajectory.
Totally. Totally.
And so being really willing to do that, and seeing this whole thing as a process that's unfolding, but what keeps me engaged, what keeps me excited, and what keeps me clearing what I'm going through now and forward moving, and working in those, I mean, I think this has the potential to become a very kind of complicated conversation, but I think when we can break it down to that simplest thing of, are you excited about the goals you're actually setting? Are they doable? Are they something that you're putting your energy into something that's making a difference? Or is it just bailing the ocean with a 5-gallon bucket and that never feels good? And is there something that is truly needs to be cleared in you in order for you to move forward? Or are you wandering around looking for something else to do because what's in front of you feels overwhelming because of the way that you've set it up?
Yeah.
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 That's a simple part of it, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. So yeah, more of a kind of an introduction to the thinking idea than the what to do with it. But that's what our alignment's for. That's right. When we're in alignment, that next right action becomes more and more clear. And
Yeah.
when we're
Yeah. And developing that intuition within you. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can look internally for those answers.
Yeah, beautiful. Awesome. Well, great conversation. Great conversation. I feel like this could
Cool,
turn
cool,
into
cool.
10 more conversations.
I think it may.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for tuning in. And, I would imagine this probably sparked more questions for you. And so as always, go ahead and click through and submit questions. Like, what do you want more clarity on with this? Because this was a topic that could go 10 different directions. So we'd love to hear back from you. What do you want more clarity on? What do you want more understanding about? What do you want more of our perspective on? And we always welcome pushback too, because I think that's often how we learn, as long as you're not digging your heels in and crossing your arms. All right. So have a great week. Thanks so much for listening.
Bye, folks.
We hope you enjoyed listening to today's podcast. And if you did, please subscribe so you can catch the next episode. If you want to learn more about the Aligned Living System and how it could support you in your life, check out davidwaldas.com.